The Ahmadiyya translations are some of the better ones, and one hears little to no criticism of the actual translations themselves. Though there are some things, are examples that we can point out. It's the commentary. It's the ideas of unnecessary things that we find in them. Now, pretty much every group is going to have selections of which prophetic sayings they are going to include. Obviously, the Ahmadiyya either change the interpretations of the terms, or they ignore certain narrations regarding the finality of prophethood. Now, that's not saying that parts of prophethood don't remain. The true dream or vision and a few others are obviously still around. I think that any definition of a word should be in the actual text. Maybe you say more in the footnote, but you don't say Bahira, Sa'idba, Wasila, and Ham in the translation and leave out in reference to the commentary. Now, the Bahira being the female and the Ham is sometimes given different numbers as to how many were parented by this individual. In this opinion, we have 7. Now, things are stated in such a way that I'm not entirely sure that these are the literal translation. They're the examples of what the term means, and I think we need to look at it like that. And the Sa'idba is set free after it has 5. The Wasila is let loose after 7 females in a row. Now, none of these were used to ride or carry, and the Bahira had cut ears. So the reference about the cut ears. And a lot of people say, well, why do we need to know all this? Well, there are still cultures that practice some of this stuff. Some of what are called neo-pagans, some of what are called heathen, some of what are called Hindu. The term idolaters, well, mushrikeen doesn't quite translate as that, does it? Its misassociators are the people of polytheism. More generally, of course, misassociation totally captures it. Maybe you need a little footnote or glossary to explain some of that. It does have comments that clarify some of these things that we'll see in like the Saudi commentary, not like the Jews or the Christians. And it's like, no, these things are broader than just saying, don't be like a Jew, don't be like a Christian. The listing of alternative translations of where certain terms are explained, the index, glossary to make sure. The index is pretty detailed. A prayer at the end of the Qur'an is a good recommended practice, but we need to distinguish it as that rather than part of the Quran itself. A lot of Christian commentators have confused themselves into thinking that these things are, you know, extra chapters that people forgot. Its commentary does emphasize that Quran is an address to all, and it addresses through what was going on and things that will be particular to reach the people of the book. Of course, everything's for everyone. The comment does use the word pagan, at least the comment does, and so I would criticize that because pagan has to do with dividing land into work plots. It's not actually something about a religious distinction, and we need to not just say, oh, you're this because you're not one of us. It's like, it's not that simple. And some of the comments kind of downplay the possibility of literal fulfillment. Certainly there is figurative senses of these things. And like war, it's not made about some personal idea of conquest. The Ahmadiyya are famous for not taking part in self-defense of the community, particularly when it came to the British and stuff. But there are some comments about Jesus that won't quite be, you know, agreed upon. There is an acceptance of Muhammad as the seal of the prophets, but as you saw earlier, there's sort of a rephrasing of that sort of thing, right? And it doesn't go as far as the Baha'i.